Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another fun episode of the Strength of Purpose podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Phil Finemore, owner of WorkFitME Mobile Physical Therapy.
And I'm Josh Jewett, owner of Strength of Purpose in Buxton, Maine. The goal of our podcast is to help busy Maine professionals find the mental, emotional, and physical strength to fulfill their true purpose in life.
We have a passion for sharing our true purpose with others. Join us as we discuss holistic health and wellness tips with our friends, colleagues, and even heroes and mentors to help you strengthen your true purpose in life. Josh, we have had a lot of fun recently talking to a whole bunch of awesome people.
Yes.
and learning a lot. And there are a few things that we've wanted to chat about. So what we thought we would do today is there's a topic I want to chat about, but this just popped into my head. I'm springing this on you, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
But
let's roll.
I thought it would be cool to talk a little bit about some of the things that have really stood out to us over these past couple of interviews.
Yeah.
So we've so far we have talked with Chris Kraus of MedCore Professionals. We had a good initial conversation with him. We've talked to one of your mentors, Brett Jones.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really empowering conversation. Yes. And just last week, we had a chance to chat with Jesse Labreck of American Ninja Warrior, which was incredible.
Super cool.
Was so grateful for her to come on. So we can maybe why don't we chat a little bit about some of the things we've gotten out of some of those interviews and how that can translate into just day-to-day life for people, because I think within some of the take homes that we thought were really important in some of those interviews. Because I think we covered some of that in the interviews, but sometimes we got I think we got so far in depth into the empowering conversations that we were having that it was easy to just get lost in the conversation. And so I think it might be kind of fun to recap that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think what you said was interesting because our goal is to have the guest kind of take over and talk about them.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? So like we can kind of take a chance and kind of reflect on some of that stuff of kind of our perspective of the conversation. So yeah, I think this is a great idea. I mean, they were all great. And they each, and like we always talk about, Phil, like everybody has a different outlook or different perspective on their particular place on earth and what they do. But I mean, we can start right off with Chris Kraus from MedCore Professionals. I mean, having somebody with that much clinical, and for those of you who don't know, he's an occupational therapist, and now he does a lot of marketing and media for MedCore Professionals in Scarborough, Maine. And he runs our Facebook page, all the social media stuff. But yeah, I mean, he just has such a wealth of knowledge. All of his years working with everybody from elderly to young people with disabilities. So yeah, what was your take on that one?
Yeah, I think, we have a really interesting conversation coming up with him that will drop next week.
Yes.
So that will be a really fun one to dive into down the road. I foresee him coming on more than just these couple of times that we'll have him on here. But from our original conversation with Chris, I think my big take home was how unique of a position that he's now in. That the company that he works for, that MedCore, basically helped him create this position because they saw so much value in his wealth of knowledge and how well that could serve the people that they work so hard to provide value to.
Absolutely.
And I think that can be of a lot of value to the people that listen to that, because I think it boils down to simply providing value to people at the highest level possible. And when you're talking about your work life, your home life, your personal relationships with friends, your love life, whatever the case might be, even your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
I think if you use your experiences and are able to reflect on them well, it can lead to something great. And I think in Chris's case, it led to him finding another path along his very interesting career trajectory that's providing him a lot of fulfillment and helping fulfill his purpose.
Yeah, definitely. And his position is sort of like getting everything to gel. Like he's sort of that sort of anchor to the business now, and his ability to sort of detach and work with anybody, no matter what kind of personality they are. He was, he talks about a lot of personalities that you work with if you're in a management position,
right?
And oftentimes you have to be sort of even keeled and detached from the situation and just be open-minded, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. He's done a great job throughout his career adapting and pivoting. And as I say that, and as I think about the other couple of guests that we're gonna talk about here, I think that is one of the main themes in all of these interviews is people who are on a path or on a trajectory, on a journey, as we've called it on our podcast here before, that have something new thrown at them or have something unexpected thrown at them, or just sort of see a change coming off in the distance that they know they're going to have to face a little bit, and having the ability and that sort of inner strength in all three of those areas, mental, emotional, and physical, to make that shift, deal with it as it comes, and make the best out of it, not only for themselves, but the people whose lives around them that they are impacting in such a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. That pivot, that quick pivot, that grace, just to kind of take it as it comes, and then obviously this is a great segue to talk about Brett Jones.
Yes.
Right. It's perfect for him. He's the director of education for Strong First. Definitely listen to that podcast. It's unbelievable. He wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for his strength. Obviously he had cancer. He dealt with cancer during a pandemic. He has his own business. He works with a couple other companies, his family, and we get to speak with him, which was really awesome. And he afterwards we spoke, and he just like, it was great to be able to talk more about his personal side of things rather than just kettlebells and training all the time. His sort of adaptation that he was forced to make to deal with cancer, to make sure that he's still there, to do everything he was told to do, to detach himself professionally and let the professionals help him, get through cancer and still be here with us today.
That the wherewithal to be able to do that. And I believe I mentioned this when we were talking to him, as someone, you and I identify with this pretty well, as someone who in certain areas knows enough to be dangerous, right?
Yes.
I think that was the term I used when we were talking to him. Sometimes when you know just enough, but you don't know everything, it is hard to peel yourself back and become the client, right? Or become the patient when you're used to it being the other way around. But I think in any situation in life, when you're going through something that maybe you've seen someone close to you experience before, or you have a little bit of knowledge on, being able to have the self-awareness to say, hey, I need help here, or I need to allow myself to get help, can be a game changer, an absolute game changer. Just kind of raising your hand and saying, hey, I need to find a better way to tackle this, and I need to let people help me with this. And that's what's going to make me more likely to succeed in whatever it is that I'm doing here, that I've never had to do before, or that I don't know enough about to do well on my own.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and think about like some people's ego with that. They might let the ego get in the way. They do know quite a bit, or they're well read on the subject.
Yeah.
So they might, they might just be like, well, I don't know if this is the right decision, and that may be a negative effect from it, So yeah, that was really interesting how he's just like, I forget what he said, like not to take it out of context, but something like, I'm a great student. Like I was, like professional. What did he say? There was something like he was professionally. What did he say?
Professionally learning and
yes, like he was like in the middle. Like he's like, I'm blank. I'm gonna let you guys tell me everything. Right. So he just dropped that ego, even though he may know some stuff about it, and he just let the real professionals kind of help him and guide him through it.
Yeah. And he went and got the help as soon as he could. I mean, I've heard countless stories of people going through a situation similar to his with that cancer diagnosis who know too much and know what the outcomes could be in that worst case scenario. And don't get the help, and it turns into the worst case scenario.
Right.
So this isn't. I'm not saying that to be a Debbie Downer or to scare people into acting a certain way, but allowing yourself to say, "Hey, as scary as this could be, I know what that worst case scenario is. What do I need to do to make sure that I don't become the worst case scenario in this situation, whether it be cancer or whether it be anything health related, or whether it be something in your career or financial or whatever the case might be, taking a step back and saying, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I don't become worst case scenario, and what can I do, and who do I need to help me get there?"
Right. Yeah. It's like that saying that a coach needs a coach too.
Yeah.
You're going to need help, and it doesn't, and we've talked about this in prior podcasts before about, finding people that maybe have a little bit more life experience than you and letting them help you on your way. So it's super important. Yeah. And that was such an awesome conversation, because it's like, it was just kind of, it went, I mean, like he said, it kind of went in a million directions, but he kind of brought it all back together again.
Yeah.
That was definitely a cool one. Yeah.
Yeah. So for sure. And
then of course, you brought somebody on that was an awesome interview too, from American Ninja Warrior. So I'll let you fire that one off.
Yeah. That was another conversation that went every little which way. And that conversation inspired me a little bit to do this sort of reflection podcast from all these awesome guests we've had on recently, because Jesse, I thought it would be really interesting for people to hear a little bit more about how people that are in that competition, train and get to where they're at. But thinking back on it, we talked a lot about that. So we definitely hit on the emotional and mental side of things with Jesse, because at that level of competition, the physical abilities of all of those people that are at the very top, and she is the top female competitor, and she puts herself right up there with the male competitors as well. In doing my research for that, I didn't want to bring this up on the podcast, but in doing my research for that, I believe I'm correct in saying this, that she was the only female competitor to finish one of the final courses in the modified version, the 2020 pandemic version of American Ninja Warrior.
That's crazy.
There might have been one other, if I recall correctly, but she was either the only one or one of just two that finished one of the hardest parts of that course. So when you're at that level of any athletic competition, you talk about that, you talk about NFL, you talk about hockey, whatever the professional sport is,
right? Whatever it is. Yeah.
The difference in physical capabilities is very small between the number one and the middle of the pack competitor. But it's what goes on between the ears, that competitive drive, the working for it every single day. And I think what stood out to me about that is, again, it kind of goes back to the pivot, right? She was on the cusp. She was on the cusp of, do I throw myself at this, what's already been a very illustrious track career, and go for the Olympic side of things, which she had the physical and mental capabilities to do.
Yeah.
But she found that it just wasn't going to be for her. What she would have to put into it, and where that path was going to take her just didn't seem like her true calling. So she made that pivot on a whim. With a friend of hers, someone that I knew and actually grew up with as well. We'll have to get him. We'll have to get him and his dad on the podcast as well.
That'd be fantastic.
We're going to turn into an American Ninja Warrior podcast here shortly.
That's okay.
but that pivot allowed her to still fulfill a big portion of her purpose, which she told us was that competition. She didn't want to be done with competition yet. And she found a way. She made that pivot and found a way to use her natural physical abilities. She had to change the way she trained a little bit physically, but that competitive mindset was still there. And that is what took her to the level she's at so quickly. She, in 5 or 6 years as a part of that competition, she has set records. She owns multiple records in the female category of that, of American Ninja Warrior. And it truly is because she took her competitive drive and competitive spirit and her strong mental desire for competition, which is her true purpose. And she threw it at a different form of physical ability and made it. And I think if all of us were able to have that, again, that awareness of when and how we need to pivot our mindset and the mental and emotional part of our strength and throw ourselves at something we're passionate about when life is giving us that crossroads, we can go places that we didn't think we maybe could have gone.
Definitely. And so down to earth too about everything.
So humble.
The way that it's the humble. And I think people can learn from that too, is that you don't have to be Captain Ego. You don't have to be like rah, rah. You can be yourself. You can be a normal person, but you can have this great ability, but you don't force it. It's just, she's just such a nice lady. And, and we can learn a lot from that, like taking her outlook, her approach to everything and just kind of, it's fantastic. Like, we're just sitting there having a regular conversation with somebody that's in front of millions of people on TV.
Yeah.
And it was just like you and I are sitting here right now talking. It was very easygoing, and that's really cool. That speaks volumes to her character.
Yes.
And just, and that's a huge thing to me too, is when you see other people in professional sports, how they handle the media or how they handle interviews or how they handle signing stuff for kids. Like, I'm sure that girl would sit out there for 2 hours and sign stuff, no problem. She's just that type of person. And so her character
100%
was amazing.
Yeah.
And savage, complete savage.
Oh, for sure.
Complete. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that wow.
She's
strong.
She's a go-getter in every sense of the word. And she is the same, to your point. I can tell you without a doubt, she is the same person today. Well, she has the same character today.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
As she did when we were roaming the halls of Messalonsky High School together.
Sure.
And that was why I said at the start of that podcast that I've been a fan of this person for a long time.
Sure.
Because I knew, watching her compete against the level of competition we had in Maine high school track and field at the time, that she was special and gifted. Athletically. And between the ears. But I met and ran into a lot of people like that at different points of my high school sports career. And not one of them was ever as genuine of a person as Jessie is. And you're right. Aside from her mindset and her pivot to pivot her purpose to become great at another type of competition, that level of character and applying that to everyday life is something that we could all do. And if we attack our day with that type of humility but also that competitive drive.
Sure.
That can get you places you didn't think you could get previously.
Yeah. And you make a lot of friends along the way. That's how you kind of gain that popularity, because it's genuine. You're not forcing it. You're not saying, oh, I'm the best, you show it, you just do it. And that carries you over into your everyday life. And I think that's kind of a cool little thing we've seen from a lot of our guests, our interviews, is they have that, they're very humble. They have that humility, that thing that makes you want to hang around with them. Right.
Yes.
Like those are the people that you want to gravitate to. And I think you and I carry that into our business too. It's not to get to our business, but I mean, it shows, like, that's why we're drawn to these people, because we sort of show that in our business too. We want to be around people, we want to help people, we want to change their lives. And I think it bleeds into our personalities and how we approach our lives too, and our family and
again, it goes back to purpose, right? And if you're doing that in one area of life, actually, Karen Poulin Anderson, who we interviewed a little while back with Team Find a Reason.
Yeah.
She has found that by being humble and kind of helping and serving others and paying it forward, it has changed the entire mental landscape of not only her work life, but also her home life and her social life and the home, work, and social lives of all the people that she's included in this.
Yeah.
And to tie that one even further in with Sandy Woznicki and her stress and anxiety coaching and her graceful resilience. When we start making those positive changes about how we treat ourselves and how we treat and take care of other people and the world around us, there's no holding you back at that point, because you are going to attract the type of people into your life that you want to attract. Your relationships are going to be stronger with them, and people are going to look to you for that same sort of energy. And it's going to bring people into your world, and you're going to have such a positive impact on each other that you never thought you could have before.
Yeah. It's like that magnetism. You want to create that magnetism in your own life, whether it's treating yourself good, like you said, or just, hey, opening the door for somebody and holding it for somebody. Yeah. Taking somebody's bags out to their car, if an elderly person, like stuff like that makes you stand head and shoulders above everybody else that doesn't practice those good deeds. Yeah. Or self-love.
Right. There's something to that. You talk about magnetism. That brings me back to when we talked with our first ever guest, Kelly Flagg. That was I said this in that interview as well. I was drawn to her because she shares that energy kind of like I do, right? And yourself.
Oh, definitely.
When we're talking about something that we're passionate about, we have a lot of energy, and we're putting that out in the world, and people like that, and it can have a positive effect on not only those people, but yourself. When you're, there's a lot to that, listen to that podcast with Sandy and Sandy Woznicki, and that'll be very evident as well. But with Kelly, with the work that she does with people, there's a reason that I promote her beyond anyone else who includes any sort of product or supplement within the type of work that they do with people when it's appropriate for them. And it's because that it comes from a truly genuine place. And it comes from, not only is she well educated on it and knows what she's talking about, but if she didn't truly think that it would be of benefit to you, to bettering yourself and fueling your body the right way, she wouldn't do it. Right.
She wouldn't push it. Right.
She wouldn't include it as part of the nutrition and lifestyle change coaching that she does. So when you put that positive energy out into the world, which in order to do that, you have to be treating yourself with that same positive energy and that positive mindset. Yep. And when you treat yourself like that, you invest that into yourself and you put that onto the world, only good things are coming back to you. And all of your life and your world is just around you is just going to be better.
Yeah. Don't be a greasy car salesman. Okay.
Right.
Don't be a greasy used car salesman.
Yes.
Be the one that's right up front,
Mm-hmm.
tells you everything up front, lets you know everything, because that is what's going to draw people to you.
Yes.
It's just, you and I don't talk about like whatever. Oh, if you come here, it's this and that.
Right.
People come to you because they see you and they see that you're honest. They see that you're up front. They see that you're a normal person. You
right.
handle yourself. You're a family man, whatever, but
right.
add the extra little tick to whatever it is. But that's who people want to work with. They want to work with you. They want to come to your business because of you. I think you told me that at one point.
Yeah,
they're coming to work with you, not just the name of your company.
Right. Yeah. People worry about brand, and brand can be important, but at the end of the day, well, let's even remove it from business, right?
Sure.
Josh Jewett is a brand. Like the things you do, the way you treat people, the way you treat yourself, the way you treat your family, the way you treat people around you, the way you interact in the community and the things you do in the community, everyone has their own brand, right?
Yeah.
And the better that we foster it, and the better, again, by investing in it, in ourselves, and by taking better care of ourselves and talking better to ourselves, and then putting that out into the world, and putting that mindset and energy and serving and valuing people and giving value to people and loving them.
Yeah.
That builds a brand. And then if we relate that back to business, if you're already building that brand yourself and you're already that kind of a person, and then you start some journey like what you and I both did, that's going to help a lot. If people know you, trust you, and know that you're a good, genuine person that's not trying to pull the wool over their eyes, they're going to trust you a lot. And but that goes a long way in any time that we're making a big change in our lives that's scary, that's stressful, that maybe we've tried before and haven't been successful at, or we've never tried before, but we just have something pulling us in that direction. I think these first few interviews we've done up to this point people can go back and look at all these and see that common theme is, if you're being pulled in that direction and you definitely feel like it's your purpose, if you do it the right way, take care of yourself and love and care for and serve others and those around you, you put that together and you can be successful at just about anything that you put yourself toward at that point.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah. I think that self-love is very important. Believing in yourself. I mean, we can say, oh, this is rainbows and unicorns and stuff like that, but seriously, like, it's okay to be critical of yourself sometimes, but overall, like, as long as it's constructive criticism and you're going in the right direction, like, it was scary when I decided to, like, I'm just going to start my own studio out of my home.
Right.
And I was like, does anybody want to come to my home?
How do I do that? Yeah.
How do I do that? And then, but even before that, there was already the seeds were being sown, having people reach out to me. They're like, well, I can't come to your gym because it's closed. Can I come to your house?
Yeah.
Or in your case, you can go to their house.
Right. So you
start getting these little things, but then still you're like, man, is this going to work? Like, ooh. Yeah. So, like I've told you before, like, I just decided, like, hey, that's all right. I'll do a nosedive. If the water's shallow, I might break my nose a little bit.
Right.
But let's just, let's get out of that and get into the deep end and just go for it,
Yeah. Along the course, you adjust, you progress, you pivot, and you as long as you can reflect on where you've been and see where you're at and see where you want to go, and you keep all those things in perspective, take care of yourself and grow yourself along the way, you can be very confident that even if your true purpose in life seems out of reach, you can reach it.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Definitely. Well, yeah, I think this was a good idea. It was a little spur of the moment, a little behind the scenes look here. Josh and I talking about something completely different. And then this thought popped into my head and we ran with it. So this was our first improv show.
Very improv. So the next time we do an actual live show, this is the kind of content we'll be talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. This is our first improvised episode. So thank you all for bearing with us. But I thought that was something that would be good for not only people listening, but selfishly, Josh, I think that was good for you and I to go through a little bit and look at why we really brought all these people on and why we wanted them to share their story in the first place. And that's because whether we're talking about health and wellness, or whether we're talking about relationships, or which are a part of health and wellness when we look at it holistically, if you look at
the whole picture. Yep.
But anything in life that's new or different or hard or stressful, if you use any one of these things that we've been able to talk about with these experts and within what they do, and kind of tailor it and mold it to your situation, you can make better of it for sure.
Yeah.
And it can get you where you want to be. So I think that was a good little conversation for us to have.
Yeah. And the other thing too is don't worry. There's always going to be bumps in the road. You think any one of those 3-4 people we talked about have never had bumps in the road? Of course they have.
Yeah.
That comes, no matter if you're a professional athlete or some big money, billionaire. Everybody has problems. Everybody does. So it's a matter of how you handle that. If you handle it with physical, emotional, and mental toughness, then it's going to be a lot easier.
Right. And that's a practice. So, and we'll actually that's a great segue to kind of promote next week's show. We're going to have Chris Kraus back on, our first ever recurring guest on the podcast. And we're going to go into a few of those things that you just mentioned. And along with a few other things. That's a really, really good episode. So really thought provoking. And I don't know about you, but when we chatted with him, I came out of that conversation really looking at myself a little bit and going, I might be doing this or that, but I could be doing this a little bit better. And it's gonna help strengthen myself. So I know that people are gonna get a lot of value out of that. So please tune in for that next week. Yep. Any other big things you wanted to hit on based on these awesome conversations we've had recently with our incredible guests?
I just feel I feel lucky that we get to talk to these people.
Yeah. Incredibly lucky.
We would have thought we'd have a Ninja Warrior contestant, let alone somebody that ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then, Brett Jones, I mean, they're both world renowned people.
Yeah.
They've both been in the spotlight. So, it's really cool. I feel grateful that we can talk and chop it up with these people. And I hope people get some stuff out of it. And, I know I like going back and listening to episodes, and it just kind of, you can always pick these little nuggets out too that you may have missed. So everybody definitely go back through anything that you've listened to once, and you might be able to extract some extra stuff out of it.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. And we just want to thank you all that have been listening. I appreciate you that you continue to listen. As always, we really appreciate the 5-star rate and review on Apple Podcasts. We've had a few of those rolling in, and we thank you all for that. You know what? Let's do this. I want to thank Dr. Taryn McCarthy at Embrace the Lead for her review. Also want to thank Mark Tripp for his review as well. Those are the people that have left their names. There are a few people that have usernames that I'm not sure who they are, but we thank them as well. But, those are the people.
You can thank me because I may or may not have added a 5-star review. No, I'm just
kidding. But those are a couple folks. So
so that's cool.
We want to thank them for their kind words. We thank you all for listening to their kind words. We appreciate it. If you have things that you'd like to hear us talk about, or you have questions, or you have ideas for guests or anything, please reach out to us on social media at Strength of Purpose Pod on Facebook and Instagram. You can also shoot us an email, strengthofpurposepod@gmail.com. And if you want to reach out to either Josh or myself about that or anything else individually, you can check the show notes for all of that. Really encourage you that if there's an interview we talked about today that you haven't had a chance to check out, go check it out. Like Josh said, every once in a while, something comes up in life that sparks curiosity or whatever. And we'd encourage you to go back and check out those interviews again, because there was a lot in some of those. And we could spend hours and hours talking with each one of these people, and we've been gracious enough that they've given us 30 to 40 minutes of their time. So yeah, there's a lot to unbox there, and I'm sure a lot of them will be recurring guests, just like Chris is about to be next week. So look for that as well. And we can't thank y'all enough for listening, and we'll see you back here next time for another episode of the Strength to Purpose podcast. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, everyone. Take care, Phil.
You too.